Hello and welcome back to the Mike Live in 5 channel. It's been a while since I've posted on this YouTube account, partly because of work, partly because of a few other things going on. But also, I think by and large, the fact that Brentford's season has, I don't want to say plateaued a little bit, but it's started to become maybe a touch clearer that Europe this season might be a little bit outside of our reach. I think recent results, the 1-0 home loss against Villa, the game coming up against Bournemouth, I think, is a big 6-pointer in terms of keeping the pace with those teams that are chasing a finish in the European places. But I thought today we could have a little bit of fun on this channel. Today, I've got the tier list back out. We're going to be doing something similar to rating every Brentford player's season so far in terms of very YouTubey videos. But today, I'm going to be looking ahead to the summer, particularly in terms of outgoings, incomings, players that we should be looking to move on, players that we should be looking to keep, things like that. So today's video is a keep or sell Brentford edition. So I'm going to be looking at some of the players that I think maybe they've come to the end of their time at Brentford. There's a few interesting ones, but particularly I think with some of the sales that could be going on in the summer, I do feel like Brentford are going to have an opportunity to really invest some of that back. I'm also toying with the idea of doing a start bench bin kind of video with Brentford players of present and Brentford players of past, which I had an idea for a couple of weeks ago, but I need to know if there's an appetite for that in the future. So, for example, start bench Ben, Ivan Toney, Ollie Watkins, Neil Maupay, that kind of video. Taking players that have played for Brentford in the past who are like cult heroes or have really good status amongst the club, compared to some of the players that Brentford have currently who are doing really well, i.e. someone like Brian Mbumo, Said Benrahma, that kind of thing. So let me know if there's an appetite for that in the comment section down below. And without further ado, this is keep or sell Brentford. So, first player on our list, Yehor Yarmolenko. This is an interesting one because I have seen a lot of people talking about Yarmolenko. I'm not really sure what his best position is entirely. I like his technical ability. I think it was around the time that I released that video around Brentford's optimal midfield trio, and people were saying that that Yehor in particular needed a loan. I don't think he's anywhere near needing a loan. I don't think he's like sort of regressed that much, or he's that further along in his development that he needs a loan to go out and kind of express himself maybe to a bottom level Premier League club or like a mid-table championship or a promotion chasing championship side. I feel like he's past that. He's 20 years old and he has in spells been a consistent starter for Brentford in the Premier League. So I don't think he's anywhere near kind of a loan or a sell kind of vibe. I do think he is one for the future for sure. And I feel like with the natural progression of our midfield three, you know, your Vitaly Anelts, your Norgards, your Jensens, those kinds of players, I do feel like Yehor Yarmolenko is one for the future in that in 4 or 5 years' time, or 3 or 4 years' time, really, he'll be a consistent starter for us. And I have seen enough from him in terms of his technical ability, his passing ability. In a similar way as well, he's kind of a disruptor. He can be quite good in the press. He's very press resistant himself. I do think Yehor Yarmolenko, I'm not saying he's going to go right to the very top, but I do think he is one that will really start to blossom and really you'll see his career start to kind of take off in the not so distant future. So with that in mind, I'm going keep. I'm not going build the team around him just yet. We've got 4 categories today. So build the team around him, keep, gone in that I think they're going to be sold, or just sell. We don't need him at the club. So yeah, Yehor Yarmolenko, I think I'm going to put in keep. I really like his potential as a player. If you think about the player that he is, he kind of fits into that Jensen mould quite well. And we know that Jensen is very injury prone at the moment. He's barely played this season or put like a string of games together. So I'm going to put him in keep for now. Yoane Wissa. This is also another interesting one because obviously there were the Forest links in the January transfer window. He's been incredible for us this season. So good. It's kind of, we're kind of being forced to play him as that number 9 position. And it's weird that we bought him as a winger and now he's kind of been converted into a 9 in the same way that Ollie Watkins was. But the numbers this season in particular, and the fact that whenever we kind of play at home, we're always kind of thinking that he's going to score, him and Mbumo linking up so well together. But the reason it's interesting, I think, is I've heard him say multiple times about his ambitions to play in Europe. With Brentford, he said, you know, when he's been asked a question by an interview, he's always said we need to be pushing as high up the table as we can, and he's talking about Europe as if it's like a realistic target for Brentford. And if you'd have asked me sort of at the start of the season when we couldn't stop winning at home, and now the fucking form is like kind of flipped on its head, I'd have said that it would have been a realistic target for us this season. I do feel like Saturday is a massive game against Bournemouth, and whether this comes out before Saturday or after, I don't know yet, but it is a big game. And if we lose that game, I do think that the players, they must kind of know with the level of opposition that we've played against this season. It seems like we're beating the teams that we expect to beat and we're losing against the teams that are above us in the table. And with the rumours about Wissa over the January transfer window with those Forest links, I do just feel like potentially the club might be looking to cash in on him when they can. We can't forget his age. I think he's 27. He's 28 years old. So he's kind of coming into his peak at the moment. I do feel like if an offer came in the summer, I wouldn't... It's really tough, this. Because if an offer came in the summer, if you'd have asked me at the start of this season, we've said it a lot of times on the podcast, if you'd have said in the summer that the Wolves links at the start of the season, I actually wouldn't have been too... I think I would have been indifferent about him going. You know, I think the bid was rumoured to be around 30 million, and that's a good amount of money for a player that hadn't... You know, we didn't know the levels that he was going to hit this season, but in seasons prior, he's kind of been an Ivan Toney shadow, a lot of the time coming on as a substitute, almost better as a substitute in some kind of way. So if you'd have asked me at the start of the season, I'd have said no. I wouldn't really care too much if he was moved on. With hindsight, with how well he's been doing, I'd love to keep him. However, I do think with the age and with the Forest links and with his ambitions to play European football, I'm not sure he's going to see Brentford as a kind of, you know, next season we're 100% getting Europe. Yes, we've been steadily building. Yes, we'll be going into our 5th season in the Premier League. So yeah, I'm not sure with this one. I'm going to put him in gone. I do think there's going to be a lot of interest around our forward players at the end of the season, and I do think Johan Wissa's going to fall into that category of a highly coveted Brentford player that we could look to kind of squeeze the cash out of. We didn't pay that much money for Johan Wissa, and it was a signing that we made in our first season in the Prem. So if we can make a tidy bit of profit on him when he's coming into the peak of his career, and also reinvest the money that we're going to get from the likes of Brian and Boomer, who I'm going to talk about later, I do think it would be a good bit of business, to be honest. And I don't see him staying in the summer, if I'm completely honest. Moving on to our captain, Christian Norgard. Lots of chat around Christian Norgard recently, not least because of the rumours that we're linking him to Everton that I saw. I'm not sure how much weight there is in those rumours. But a lot because he's coming to the end of his contract. There's an option to extend it. I think he is after a new deal, like a new long-term deal. Of course, he would be looking for a long-term contract. He's 31 years old. I still think he's absolutely fantastic. And there was a lot of people after the last game against Villa saying maybe it's time for him to move on. Maybe it's time. After those links with Everton, people were saying maybe this is the right time to sell Christian Norgard. I am not in that boat at all. I still think when Christian Norgard plays, Brentford are a much, much better team. And Thomas Frank has said that as well. I just think he makes everyone better around him. He's such an enforcer in that midfield. He's so calm on the ball. He's the one that, you know, when the back four are looking to play out from the back and he picks up the ball, I'm never really too concerned that he's going to give it away. If anything, I'm saying out of those midfielders, he's the one that's probably going to look forward in more situations than someone like Vitaly Janelt would. We're going to talk about Janelt next, but let me know in the comments. It's an interesting one with Norgard. I still think he's got a year left at least to be really performing at the levels that he has been for Brentford since we signed him all the way back in the Championship days. I'm going to say keep. I'm not going to say build the team around him because I think he's too old to be doing that. But I'm going to put him in the keep category purely because he's our captain and he just offers so much. Next one is Vitaly Janelt. Another really interesting one. They're all interesting, but like in terms of the first 11s, in terms of the players that are starting in Brentford's team week in, week out, those are the more interesting ones. Vitaly Janelt, for me, I think he's an incredible squad player. I don't think we need to be starting him as much as we do. I've mentioned it in videos gone by, in podcasts gone by. I do feel like with the players we have coming through, I'm thinking about Paris Magoma, I'm thinking about Cognac, who I know we've not seen a lot of. I do feel like in the summer is an opportunity for Brentford to bring in a midfield player that offers something a little bit different to someone like Vitaly Janelt. You can add Yehor Yarmolenko into that category in terms of players that we've got in midfield that do similar things. I think Vitaly Janelt has been such a fantastic servant for Brentford, but I do think, for me, this summer, if we're looking to evolve, if we're looking to really break into those European places and really put like a sustained run together where it looks like we're one of the Brightons or we're one of the Bournemouths or, for fuck's sake, can't believe I'm saying this, one of the Fulhams even, or Villas, Newcastles, that ilk of club. If we want to be in that conversation, I do think in midfield is an area we need to invest in because we're still starting the same midfield that we were in the Championship. Norgard, Jensen, Janelt, or Norgard, Jensen, Damsgaard this season. But Damsgaard's in season has been incredible. He's only broken into the team this year. But if you look back at kind of our midfield three, since we came up, it's the same one that we'd been starting in the Championship. So if we want to get to the next level, break out of this kind of mid-table place that we're in at the moment, I do feel like midfield is an area that we need to invest in. And if you look at the talent we've got coming through, it's a position that we're quite covered in. We're never really too worried about injuries in midfield unless it's Christian Norgard, because I think we're considerably worse without him. So yeah, I'm putting Vitaliano in sell. Let me know in the comments what you think of that. I just do think maybe if we want to go to that next level, then we need to look to invest in midfield or trust one of the youngsters who's going to have a little bit more going forward. Someone like Yiho Yarmolenko, someone like Paris Magoma, but can also do the defensive work that Vitaliano does. Next one up is Matthias Jensen. And I know that there are not a lot of people entirely convinced by Jensen because he's basically had one kind of outstanding season. I remember last year he was very, very good. The year before he was okay. This year, completely injury plagued. So it's difficult. It's whether we want to kind of move on a player who isn't giving us return on investment in terms of him playing every week. We never really see him. He's always on the sidelines, and then he comes back and then he gets another little niggle and then he's on the sidelines again. We're kind of in a repetitive stage with Jensen. What I will say is that when he's at his best, I don't think he's too far behind the likes of Norgard and Damsgaard. When he's at his brilliant best, I'm talking when he's playing every week, when he's spraying passes across the pitch, I think he's got the best delivery in the team in terms of dead balls. That's when he's at his best, but we don't see it enough. I'm kind of in the middle of Gone and Sell, to be honest. I don't know where to place him. For me, I would probably keep him just for now because we've seen how good he can be. And I don't think he's as replaceable as someone like Vitaliano. So I'm going to put him in keep for now. But I might rearrange that come the end, see how many people have got in keep. Rico Henry. Right. Are we ever going to see Rico Henry again? It just doesn't feel like he's going to come back. And just in general, around the kind of the injury medical team discourse at Brentford, it's so odd. It's like, I don't know whether to think as a fan whether we've got like an inferior medical team to other clubs. But when you've got someone like Rico Henry who has been out for over a year now, and it looks like we're not going to see him again this season, at least till after the next international break. So we're looking at another month at least until he's starting to get consistent minutes under his belt. It's so and it's the second time he's torn his ACL, so it's not like he's going to be coming back the exact same player. He's going to be worse than he was. I'm not going to say sell, because I think we should definitely keep him. I feel like he's probably a player that, his resale value is probably quite low right now. So it's not like we're going to get any kind of big bids in for him from now until the end of his career. I would say keep, and we obviously want Rico Henry to be doing well at Brentford, and we want him to be back because when he is fit and when he is firing, I do feel like we've got a very, very high quality left back there that goes under the radar in terms of left backs in the Premier League. So I'm going to say keep for now, but the injury record, it's just, I feel so sorry for him. Let me know in the comments what you feel about Rico Henry, because with him, we're so good. Obviously, the only thing I would add to his game would be his attacking threat going forward sometimes isn't up to scratch. But, with KLP, we've seen the exact same thing. Both of them very good defensively, but both of them lacking a little bit in the final third. But Michael Kayode is covering that area. So I'm putting Rico Henry in keep, but I do feel like we're maybe one big injury away from maybe seeing the end of Rico Henry, which makes me really, really sad because he's been, again, like Vitaliano, such a fantastic servant for Brentford over the years. And I don't want to see it happen, but I feel like one more injury with him, and that might be it. Next one up, Kevin Schade. This one might surprise you with Kevin Schade because I've flip-flopped a lot with Schade over the course of his Brentford career, really, but particularly this season because he hasn't been injured and he's started to become like a main starter in the team. But you do see it week after week after week. There are so many comments about Kevin Schade on Twitter, on social media. People get so frustrated with him, and I'm one of them. I've said before, I don't like his body language at times. It frustrates me that he goes down quite a lot. He's always looking at the ref to say, where's the foul, where's the foul? And his off-the-ball work isn't as good as someone like Johan Wissa or Brian Mbeumo, for example. But this is going to surprise you. I'm actually going to put Kevin Schade and build the team around him. I think I've seen enough this season for him to just go on a bit of a run. I do feel like we've got a very, very high-quality player. We've said it before, the raw attributes, the pace, the aerial presence, the quick feet, the stuff that you look for in a winger, I think he's got. It's just a case of putting it together on a consistent basis. And maybe when Brian Mbeumo does leave, him becoming that kind of integral part of the front line. I feel like he's maybe living in the shadow of Johan Wissa, maybe living in the shadow of Bryan Mbeumo. If you put him on that pedestal and make him the main guy, then I do think we might reap the rewards. I'm thinking about the kind of partnership, the havoc that someone like Igor Thiago and Kevin Schade could wreak on a defence if they were fit, if they were firing, both of them at the same time, is really, really interesting. The fact that Borussia Dortmund was sniffing around Kevin Schade in January and there were rumours of sort of 50 million, 60 million euro bids coming in, I think tells you the potential of this player. So I'm putting him and build the team around him, and that might cause a little bit of controversy, not least because I've been, one of the people to kind of criticise him quite heavily this season, but also because of the fact that he is always in the spotlight for good or for worse. Emre Konak, I'm sticking into keep. I don't think we've seen enough of him yet. I feel like the potential's there. We all heard about how highly rated he was in the Turkish league when we signed him, but again, don't think we've really seen any minutes from him at all. He was coming on at the start of the season quite a bit, but after that, we've not really seen anything of him. So I can't really make too much of a judgment on Konak yet. He's very, very young, but obviously quite highly rated, so I'm putting him into keep. Gustavo Nunes, another one. Are we ever going to see him again? He goes straight into keep for me. I feel like the hype when we signed him coming out of Brazil, being that kind of marquee signing, close to deadline day, he is one that I'm really, really excited about. But again, someone that he's not made his debut for Brentford yet. He's played some minutes behind closed doors. Then I think he got another setback. We can't make a judgment on him yet, but I'm putting him in keep because he's very young. He looks like an explosive, dynamic winger, and I feel like he's going to come very, very good. Mads Roerslev, I'm putting into the gone category. I'll probably put him into sell, actually, just because I feel like the gone one is for the marquee outgoings that we're going to see over the summer. But yeah, Mads Roerslev into sell, currently on loan at Wolfsburg. I hope he's doing well. Kim Ji-soo, a difficult one again. I feel like with the cover we've got at centre-back, he's definitely one to keep. It's obviously one that the club rate very highly, brought in when he was very young. Did amazingly well for South Korea in that international tournament. I think that was under 19 level when he won player of the tournament for South Korea. So yeah, one to keep for me. I feel like he's come on. When he has come on, I feel like he's done an okay job. But again, you can't really expect him to play or to stand out in a team where you make 7 changes. I'm thinking about the Plymouth game. Don't get me started on the changes that Thomas Frank made for that game. But you can't expect him to shine when there's 7 changes being made to the team and there's not really that much kind of synchrony, cohesion, fluidity, call it what you will. But you can't really expect him to kind of stand out when he's playing with players that he doesn't really play with on a week in, week out basis. So yeah, I'm putting Kim Ji-soo into keep because I think he's one for the future. Ethan Pinnock. I'm going to put Ethan Pinnock into keep. I feel like this season we've seen such a sharp decline of Ethan Pinnock, which is weird because last season there's a case to be made that he was our player of the season. I think he was voted supporters player of the season. But it doesn't, you can't deny. There were a few comments on our last video about sort of us slagging off Ethan Pinnock a little bit too much on the pod. I just don't think... I think you're lying to yourself if you don't see the decline of Ethan Pinnock this season. It looks like he's lost a yard of pace. His positioning sometimes is just a little bit skew-if. I'm thinking about the Everton game when he was at fault for all 3 of Beto's big chances in that game. He's not making the right decisions as much as he was last season. Having said that, an amazing squad player to have in. I actually think he did a really good job against Villa last Saturday. And, I was a bit worried for that game, considering Ollie Watkins seems to give him a torrid time whenever we play against him. But I would say as a backup centre-back, he is not a bad option to have at all. He's kind of going to assume, I'd imagine he'd assume that Ben Mee role next season, with the likes of Sepp van den Berg kind of coming to the fore and Nathan Collins. Those, I would say, are our starting centre-back partnership now. But I wouldn't say sell him because he's such fantastic cover at centre-half. And I would imagine that the club are looking to sell on Ben Mee. Although I did hear about contract talks, which I'm a little bit confused about, to be honest. I don't feel like Ben Mee has done particularly badly this season when he's come in. But again, he's another one that, Brentford always like to have that old head around. The old one that's been there and done it. I'm thinking about Winston Reid. This season it's been Ben Mee, or the last few seasons it's been Ben Mee. But I don't feel like we necessarily need him to come in. With the likes of Jisoo coming through, with the cover at centre-half that we have in Aya, who is always injured again. But I do feel like potentially at centre-half, that would be an area that Brentford would look at in the summer in terms of bringing someone in, just because we've seen such a sharp decline of Ethan Pinnock, because Christopher Aya is injury-prone, because Ben Mee is maybe not at the level that we need in terms of a centre-back who's going to come in and put a shift in. I would actually put Ben Mee in sell this season. Bryan Mbeumo, he's gone. He is gone. And there's been people saying that it's not a foregone conclusion with Bryan Mbeumo. He's on track to score 20 goals in the Premier League this season. I don't want him to go, but if we manage to hold on to him with the interest flying around, I'm thinking, big clubs want this guy. I remember seeing an article in the Mirror earlier this season suggesting that Newcastle are after him. If any buyer comes in, I would say Newcastle would be the optimum one, because we know how much money they've got. Whether they're able to spend it or not in the summer, we don't know. But I don't. People, let me know in the comments, because people are talking about Bryan Mbeumo as if it's not a done deal, the fact that he's going to go in the summer. There is no way in hell that he can score 20 goals and loads of assists and then not be like a swirl of interest. There's going to be so many big clubs after him. I just think he's gone. Fantastic seven for Brentford. It's going to be weird him playing in a different shirt. I hope he stays in the Prem. But I think he's gone. Like, let me know in the comments, but I think he's gone. Him and Yohan Wissa, I really do think might be gone. Well, Yohan Wissa might be gone. I think Bryan Mbeumo definitely is gone this summer. Yeah, Bryan Mbeumo, I think he's gone. Mikel Damsgaard, do I need to say any more? I think build the team around him. The guy's the future. We just signed him down to a new long-term contract. Whether he goes, if we manage to hold on to him this summer, I do feel like he needs another year of like sustained development in terms of being the best player in the team. He has been this year. Build the team around him. He's the future. He's the guy. I've waxed lyrical about Mikel Damsgaard all season long, so I don't need to do any more, but I'm putting him in to build the team around him. Sepp van den Berg, I'm putting in to keep. I don't think he has been like particularly outstanding. Having said that, the centre-back partnership now of him and Nathan Collins, I do think is our best. It was really annoying to see him go off against West Ham, because if you look at our results since the 1-1 draw against Everton, where we looked defensively vulnerable, the 1-0 defeat against Aston Villa, again, where we looked defensively vulnerable. Do those situations pop up with Van den Berg in the team, someone who's a little bit more mobile than Pinnock? I'm not sure. That's just hearsay, but I do think Nathan Collins is the one that we build the team around. I'm going to be very surprised if there isn't a lot of interest in Nathan Collins this summer. I still can't figure out why Wolves let him go. I know that's easy to say now with hindsight, and last season he was very inconsistent, or either really, really good or really, really bad. This season he has been our rock at the back. So calm on the ball. He's everything you want in a modern-day centre-back, but he also has the traditional qualities as well, in terms of winning his aerial duels, getting the ball clear when we know we need to get it clear. But again, so silky, can go on these like marauding runs. I'd say build the team around Nathan Collins, because going forward, with his age as well, he's so young, he's a future captain of Brentford for me. Igor Thiago is difficult, because I would put him and build the team around him, but I don't think I've seen enough from him to suggest that we can build the team around him. I think he's so pivotal to Brentford's approach in the coming years, particularly with sort of, we saw it against Villa, right? Breaking down low blocks. We saw it against Forest, breaking down low blocks. We saw it against Spurs, breaking down low blocks. This season, our strategy has been to get the ball into the box, into central areas, high quality chances. That's what we're after. But I do feel like without that aerial presence in the box, those high quality chances may come to people who just can't get on the end of it, i.e. Bryan Mbeumo, Yohan Wissa. Kevin Schade, I'm not going to put in that category because I think his aerial presence is massive. But with Igor Thiago, I always go back, like the touch point for me in terms of Brentford season, I always go back to that Newcastle game when we beat them 4-2 at home. That's when we've looked at our brilliant best. And Igor Thiago was in the team that day. And he just pinned their centre-backs. He allowed Bryan Mbeumo and Kevin Schade and Yohan Wissa to come into the game a bit more. Funnily enough, that was a game that Fabio Carvalho started, who I'll talk about next. But we just need something different at points. When we're struggling to break down those low blocks, we need a different approach. And I do feel like Igor Thiago is someone that can offer that different approach from the off or from the bench. So, yeah, Igor Thiago I'm putting into keep. Paris Magoma. Actually, no, I will talk about Fabio Carvalho next, because I don't really understand the criticism that comes his way. I don't feel like you can expect him to light the world on fire when he's been given the bit part minutes that he has under Thomas Frank. However, even sort of when KLP was coming through, when Mikel Damsgaard was coming through, when Kevin Schade was coming through, we were seeing sustained minutes from the start or from the bench. Fabio Carvalho always comes on post 80 minutes. So what the hell can we expect from him when he's only getting 10 minutes here and there when we're chasing a game? I'll talk about it again. The game where we've been the best is the Newcastle game. And he started in that game and he was really good in that game as well. So I did a whole video earlier this season about why he could be the missing ingredient in Brentford's midfield. I do feel like he's potentially one where we could put him in that midfield and he could offer you the things that Vitaly Janelt does defensively, maybe to a lesser extent, but what he offers going forward in terms of his ability to kind of get past players, to ping balls into strikers. He's got really quick feet. I can imagine the interplay already. We saw glimpses of it against Newcastle with Igor Thiago. But yeah, I don't understand the criticism Fabio Carvalho gets. I really don't understand it. Against Plymouth, like, he was basically the scapegoat for that game. But no one was good that day. We all know about all the changes that Thomas Frank made. So yeah, I don't really get the criticism with Fabio Carvalho. I don't think we've seen enough of him to make a judgment on him. Whether Thomas Frank fancies him or not is another question completely. But you would suggest that with the limited game time that he's had this season, coming off the back of, even when he was playing for Liverpool, he was still coming on every now and again as a sub. But he was so good in the Championship for Hull. There were rumours that he was going to go on loan in January. He obviously wants to play consistent first-team football. And I really, really hope that he gets it this season. I know he's got an injury now, so he's going to be out for up to 8 weeks, I'm reading. But next season at least, I'm hoping that he becomes like a pivotal player in the team. So he's going into keep for me. I'm not going to put him and build the team around him because we just haven't seen enough of him yet. Paris Magoma, another one that I'm going to put into keep. I feel like when he's come on, he's done a shift when he's been asked to. He's never really put a foot wrong. The thing that stands out for me in his season so far is the twinkle toes against Southampton when he sets up the 5th goal, I believe it was, for KLP to score. And yeah, I feel like we have a player there who was Bolton's player of the season. They rant and rave about him. So there's definitely a player in there. But again, it's one about minutes. We've not really seen it. And I'm not really sure what his best position is either, because at Bolton, he was more of an attacking 8/10. But when he's been deployed at Brentford, he's kind of been a bit more deep lying, either as like a Christian Norgard type or a Vitaliano type. So I'm not really sure where his best position is. But again, I'm putting him into keep. Josh De Silva. I've spoken about this guy so much recently because I miss him playing football so much. If he was fit and firing, he'd go straight into build the team around him for me, because like the memories of the Championship days when he was just so good are still fresh in the mind for me. Still fresh in the mind. And again, he's Rico Henry in that he's one injury away, I think, from his career kind of falling by the wayside. I'm going to put him into keep. I think his contract is up at the end of the season. But I do believe we've got an option to extend that by a year. And I feel like the club definitely will do that. Considering he's coming back from an ACL injury, I'm not sure if we'll see him this season. But Brentford fans love him. Cult hero. Only scores great goals, as we know. So I put him into keep for me. Keane Lewis-Potter. I think he's been like an understated player of the season. Putting in a shift at left back. Even though he's a left winger, I don't think he's played at left wing all season long. But you'd imagine when Rico Henry comes back, it's not going to be easy for Rico Henry to actually come back into the fold just because of how well Keane Lewis-Potter has been playing at left back. But I think Thomas Frank has said that he's not going to be a left back forever. So when Rico Henry does come back, where does Keane Lewis-Potter fit into the team? Does he start ahead of Schade on the left? Does Schade move over to the right? Does Gustavo Nunes come into the team? It's good that we've got all these options. I don't think we're going to say bye to KLP. I know he's had a recent contract extension, so he's one that we're definitely going to keep. It's just a case of where he kind of fits in once we get players back from injury, if we get players back from injury. But for me, I'm going to say keep. I'm not going to say build the team around him because we haven't seen that level of output yet that suggests that he's going to go on to be like a really, really important player for us. I do think he's going to be an important player for us, but I don't think he's at the levels of a Mikel Damsgaard or a Nathan Collins just yet. Moving on to Christopher Ajer. It's a difficult one for me with Ajer. I think he's starting... The injury record frustrates me a little bit, and I do feel like recently, under the radar a little bit, I don't know how everyone else feels, but let me know in the comment section. I don't feel like he's quite been at the levels he was at the start of the season. I'm not saying sell him. I'm going to put him into keep. But I need to see a little bit more from him going forward. Whether that's a centre-half or right-back, I'm not sure. But Christopher Ajer, I'm going to say keep. I think he's been an important player for us, and he could go on to have a really great career at Brentford. But yeah, since the last injury that he had, this like sustained run of minutes in the team, I don't think he's quite been at the levels that he has been. Mark Flecken, I'm going to put straight into keep. I think he's come on a lot this season. He's come under a bit of criticism at times. But even that 1v1 against Ollie Watkins against Aston Villa, I've criticised him before for going to ground too early and making that dinked finish over the keeper so much easier. So conclusions from that is that you must listen to the pod, along with Brian and Bumo, because the one against Aston Villa where he just stayed tall and was waiting for Ollie Watkins to dink it was a really good save, and he stood him up and he made the save that he needed to make. And he's come on leaps and bounds this season from where he was to where he is now. I think everyone knows about the kind of Mark Flecken remontada, so we're putting him in keep. Jayden Magoma, another one for the future. I think we'll put him straight into keep. I have a mate at work who's a Preston fan who's been really impressed with his work at left wing back, playing in a back five. under Paul Heckingbottom. So, yeah, I like Jayden Magoma. Obviously, I haven't seen too much of him for Brentford, but he looks like a very raw winger, needs a bit of time to kind of grow into himself as a player. So we're going to put him keep. He's obviously one that Brentford scouted from Southampton, and there's a lot of high hopes around him, but not this season, not probably next season either, but one for the future for sure. Maybe Rico Henry's successor down the line. Valdemarsson, I think a lot of people were disappointed with his performance against Spurs. You could argue that he was at fault for both of the goals, really, being beaten at the near post like he was for Sarr's second goal, and then obviously not really commanding his box as well as he could do for the first goal from the corner. But I like him. I like him. He seems like a good character. I don't know if how in touch people are with Brentford's like social channels and the interviews they put out, but everyone says he's a bit of a robot. In the way that he is and his personality and stuff. And I like him. I think he's not set the world alight whenever he's come on or whenever he's played, but he's been steady. He's been steady enough. The game against England for Iceland at Wembley was actually a really good one because I thought he looked so comfortable on the ball. Maybe not as comfortable as Mark Flecken has looked for Brentford at least, but in that game specifically against England, I thought he looked really comfortable on the ball. In like a big pressure game like that at Wembley, I thought he did himself proud. So yeah, Valdemarsson straight into keep for me. Aaron Hickey, I'm putting in build the team around him. And that might surprise a few people. But I just think with Aaron Hickey fit and firing this season, I do think he's like an integral part of our team. Can use both feet, can get up and down. He's solid defensively. The passing lanes he could open up with the likes of Damsgaard into the midfield, I think is a real bonus for him. And it's not too long ago that we heard those rumours about Pep Guardiola wanting him at Man City. So it's clear that there's a player in there. He's still so young, but he's played so many games for his age. So yeah, I really like Aaron Hickey. And I do feel like our season would be maybe a little bit different if we'd have had him from the start, because we know about the problems that we've had at fullback. He kind of solved both sides. It's just such a shame that he was due to come back and then had another big setback, which is going to keep him out maybe until the end of this season. But it feels weird that he could be one that we actually see this season out of the host of injured players that we've got. Nunes, Thiago, Rico Henry. Aaron Hickey is going to be the one that we could potentially see get some minutes under his belt before the end of the season. But yeah, he's a really impressive player for me. The work that he did at Bologna before we signed him, the goals that he would score from right back or left back when he was playing, and just the kind of evolution of his Brentford career. I remember before he got injured, I think it was at Chelsea away last season, he was another one that kind of took a little bit of time to grow into his skin a little bit at Brentford. But from what I saw up until we had that massive injury crisis in the middle of last season, he was very, very good. And then the last one on the list, Michael Coyote. Obviously, I'm putting that into keep. We've got him on loan at the moment, but I know there's an obligation to buy. So yeah, I'm going to put him into keep. I'm just going to have a little look at the tier list to see if we can rearrange anything. So the outgoings this summer, I feel like are going to be Brian and Mbumo, Johan Wissa. I would like to see us move on Vitalian out. Mads Roslev's already gone, and I'd imagine Ben Mee would be another one to go. But in terms of the positions that we should be looking to strengthen, and depending on the money that we're going to get from Brian and Mbumo, we do need another winger. Obviously, we need to replace Brian and Mbumo if he goes. We'd need to replace Wissa if he goes too. But it's going to be a healthy cash injection in the summer. I just feel like we need to use the cash injection wisely. The only one that I might change potentially is Matthias Jensen into sell. Let me know what you think of that in the comments. I'm going to put him in keep just because of the reasons that I mentioned earlier in the video in terms of what he can offer when he's at his best. But I'm looking at the list and I feel like that is my finished version. Let me know in the comment section who you would like to sell, who you'd like to bring in, the areas we need to strengthen in the summer. The reason I've done this video now is because it kind of looks like our season isn't petering out. I don't want to say that yet. I'm forever an optimist for Brentford. If we win on Saturday against Bournemouth, then we're still right in the hunt in terms of those teams that could finish in the 8th place. So yeah, let me know what you think of the tier list. This is Brentford keep or sell. A lot of rogue ones in there. Vitalian out. I know some people won't be happy about that. Build the team around him. Kevin Schade. Have we seen enough from him to put him in that category? I don't know. Don't take the list too seriously. Football's a game of opinions. It's just a bit of fun. But yeah, the tier list is coming back out. And let me know as well if you want to see that start bench bin of Brentford players of past and present. I think that would be a really fun video to record. So yeah, remember to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, drop a comment with any of the suggestions that you would make, any changes that you would make to the tier list. Let's hope for 3 points against Bournemouth, and I will see you on the next video.